Hey folks, welcome to today's video. A little bit windy out today. I can't really control the wind as much as I've tried. But anyway, today I want to do a video on just making a meal. I'm going to make a dinner tonight. And one of the things I want to include is a wild edible that is right down the road from my house. It's cattail. So let's get going, harvest some. So a quick word about cattails. They're basically like a filter feeder, so you don't want to collect them in dirty areas or areas with a lot of pollution. This is down the road from my house. There aren't any farms nearby. There really isn't any pollution or anything. It's a little close to the road. It would be nice if I could walk, way back in the woods and try to harvest them from there a little bit better. But this is a dirt road. Not too many people come down this road, so I feel pretty comfortable harvesting cattails here. I'm not going to harvest a ton. This is a pretty small patch. I do have a larger one down the road in a gravel pit, but once again, it's a gravel pit. I don't really want to harvest it from there. So anyway, let's go get some. So this cattail plant's a pretty cool plant. You can harvest it at different times, different parts of it at different times of the year. Right now I'm going to be harvesting the stalk. The root is also edible. But all of the nutrients right now are going into the stalk and the leaves, and later on into reproduction. And then in the fall, the nutrients go into the roots to try and store them and try to make it survive over the winter. So the fall is basically the best time to get the roots. But right now, I'm just going to reach down in here and pull that up right there. And then I'll take this back to the house and process it. But first I'm going to harvest a couple more. So these cattails I'm harvesting are actually out of the water right now. It's a swamp that I'm standing in, but it's a semi-dry right now. If these were in water, I would want to cook them. I don't need to cook these right now. They weren't in the water. Like I said, if they're in the water, it's just because it may be stagnant water. It's a swamp. You're going to want to cook them so that you would be like boiling your water. You wouldn't want to just drink out of a swamp like this. So if there's water that contaminates the plants that you're going to eat, you want to cook them. And that's probably what we're going to do tonight. But let me get a couple more here. Okay, this looks like enough here. Like I said, you can eat these raw. It tastes pretty good. I've only really ran into one person who didn't like the taste. It's kind of I don't know, maybe a little bit celery, but it's got a different flavor to it, but I like it. I'm going to go home. I'm going to get rid of some of this just outer stuff on it, and then probably cut them up and maybe fry them up. Now, if you are someone who doesn't really like wild edibles, or you go out with someone who kind of, everybody's got these preconceived notions that the wild edibles are going to taste yucky, and so therefore when they try them, they think they taste yucky. But if you fry them up in butter and garlic, I'm pretty sure they'll like them. So let's go back and give that a whirl. So another really good wild edible is wood sorrel. Wood sorrel is a good one for folks that don't like wild edibles because it tastes so good. It tastes like green apples. So here's a bigger patch. I'll just go ahead and just harvest that right there. So here's a good shot of some wood sorrel that I harvested, and then just a piece of clover that's grown in my yard here. So you can see the difference. The wood sorrel has more of a heart-shaped leaf. See the little heart there? The clover is more rounded, and it's a deeper green, and then sometimes it's got this little white thing in it, but you can tell the difference. I think this must have been the patch I was thinking about. You can see the nice big leaves, see how they're different color. But that's okay, it's still heart-shaped leaf. Now, if you use pesticides or fertilizers or something like that on your lawn, you're not going to want to just go out on your lawn and pick random things and eat it. I don't use pesticides and I don't use fertilizers for my lawn. If it grows, it grows. If it doesn't, it doesn't. So, that's going to be good eating. Well, the dinner I'm going to be making tonight is just simple BLTs. Bacon, lettuce, and tomato. But we're going to throw a little bit of wild edibles in there. I'm going to have a side of cattails. And then with the BLTs, I'm going to go ahead and put some of that wood sorrel on there just try it. You know, wood sorrel, like I said, it's a fun plant. It tastes like green apples. It's pretty easy to process. You just pick it, rinse it off, maybe get rid of the roots, a little bit of the stems. The stems don't have quite the flavor that the leaves do, so it's real basic. Maybe just cut it up a little bit. We'll throw it on there just for a little pop, you know, for the green apple flavor. The cattails. So I went ahead and harvested them like I showed out there. The root would have been down here further. I'm going to go ahead and cut maybe just a little bit of this end off, and then I'm going to cut it back here just to make it more of a manageable size. I don't need all this leafy part. See this leaf here? I don't need that. But this actually, the leaves can be woven into baskets. There's different things you can do with them. They're great project material. I'll probably go ahead and keep them and utilize them for something. But I'm going to go ahead and cut this down just to make it manageable, like I said. And then I'm going to peel the outer layers of this stalk off. And I'm going to go ahead and use as much as I can until it gets too fibrous to be enjoyable. You know, I don't want to, like the roots, you have to kind of chew them and get all the nutrients and all the digestible fiber out of them. But then you're left with fibrous material that you can't eat. You can't really process it, so you spit that out. I don't want that in my dinner. If I'm sitting around a kitchen table, I don't want to have to chew something and then spit it out. So I'm going to go ahead and process it down and just use the really good tender parts of it. So to help me process those cattails down and even a little bit of this wood sorrel, I'm going to use this large Pouter from LT Wright Knives. This is part of their camp kitchen knife set. This is a real good size for this particular project. I always like to tell people so that everybody wants the one tool option, the one knife that does it all. And sure, there are knives out there that, take for instance the Gen 6, which I absolutely love. It can do basically everything that I want it to do. Are there other knives that can do specific tasks better? Yes, there are. The Genesis can do fine carving tasks better than the Gen 6. I like to tell people that when you go to your kitchen, you don't have just one knife, you have multiple knives. And like I said, this is part of their Camp Kitchen series. This is another knife in the toolbox, basically. And this knife is going to be perfect for this particular task. So I'll put the link in the description of the video. But AEB-L steel, stainless steel, just a real nice kitchen knife. Really not a whole lot of processing I need to do with these, like I said. Maybe just, and I don't even need to really use this knife here. I could probably just pick them off. It just makes it a little easier sometimes with these thicker stems. Get rid of the stems. This is all real good stuff here. I just want to make sure that I don't waste anything, so I'm going to start clear back here. I'm not going to be able to eat this here. I really probably can cut it clear down to here, but I want to peel this and dive into it and see how much, you know, I can really use here. I don't want to waste any of it, like I said. I'm really enjoying this Camp Kitchen Knife Series LT put out. I've been wanting a good quality kitchen knife set for quite some time. I've got a couple in the set now, and like I said, I'm just really enjoying them. Oh, that one went down. Man down, man down. So here's a nice big piece. I'm just gonna peel just this little outer layer off, just like you do for an onion or something. And I'm going to go ahead and just slice her up. Oh, that's slicing. slicing real good. I can tell that's nice and tender. This knife is just chewing through it like butter. Still good right there, but I think it's gonna start getting a little bit fibrous right there. Maybe one more piece. I can tell just by how the knife, I mean it's a very sharp knife, so I can tell that if it doesn't just dive right into it, that's going to be a fibrousy part. I think that's a word, fibrousy. Pretty sure it's a word. So now I'm going to just peel this additional outer layer off. And one thing you can do too is just test it by doing a little gnaw on it, you know. So the inner part of that was quite tender, but the outer part isn't quite as good. So this part here, it's a little chewy. It doesn't really lend itself to chewing very easily. There's a lot of fiber there. I'm going to discard this part. So I got some peelings I'm getting rid of. And this part, my family's probably not going to appreciate the fact that I chewed on it. So we'll get rid of that. Once again, I can feel the knife just really go through it like butter. Okay? So that way I know it's tender. It's a little bit tougher right there. Still going through it pretty good though. Yeah, that's all good stuff right there. This one's a little bit tougher. You can kind of see the inside part too, see how it's a little greener as opposed to the pure white. I've got a lot of good stuff here. Once again, just a little bit of fibrous material. These are really slimy, so it's nice to have a knife that you can definitely get a good purchase on the handle with. So all I'm going to do now is take these things and put them in a colander and just rinse them off, put them in the sink until I prep the other ingredients that I want to throw in here. So what we're doing is we are trying to make this look like a traditional type of dish. In other words, folks that don't like wild edibles or whatever, we don't want them to get all freaked out, and we want to kind of, I hate to say this, but we're going to disguise it, is basically exactly what we're doing. And to disguise it, we're going to put some store-bought stuff in there, like onions and garlic. These are little onions that we just had laying around. I don't know, called boiler onions, I don't know. I'm sure they're going to be fine, but we're just going to peel the outside here. So we're going to just kind of slice this, chop it I guess you might say. You know, these camp kitchen knives, like I said, they've been intriguing me since I found out that LT made them. And this isn't a set that, you know, is a beginner set or whatever. This is when you get older and you finally are done screwing around with all these other knives, the Walmart knives or whatever you might have bought in the past, and you're like, okay, now I want a good set of kitchen knives, either to take camping or in the kitchen. Something happened there. These knives will be around. These are some knives that I can that I can pass down to my kids. And if I take care of them, which there's really no maintenance involved except honing them after you get done using them, and that's it. Make sure you don't put them in the dishwasher, just like your other good knives. You don't put them in the dishwasher, even though they're stainless steel. You hand wash them. You keep up on, like I said, the honing of them, the maintenance of them. And these knives are going to last you a lifetime, and multiple lifetimes. And that was something that really intrigued me when I found out that LT was making these. That's the kind of kitchen knife set that I wanted. pretty thin slices right there. Okay, I found the garlic. I'm not going to get too carried away with getting it too small. About the same size as the onions, maybe a little bit smaller. So these tomatoes are actually a little bit older. You can see the wrinkles on them. I bought them just a few days ago, but they were just extremely ripe. Excuse me, they were extremely ripe in the store. They actually had the vine still attached to them. A little country store, so they were vine ripened, like real vine ripened. So I'm just gonna get rid of this stem part. You know it's a sharp knife when you've got a tomato on its last legs and it goes right through it. Okay, I've got the butter starting to hiss and pop a little bit. It needs to get a little bit, actually it doesn't. We're going to throw these in there. I don't know, maybe five minutes, maybe at the most. That's probably what I'm going to fry them for. I want them to sound a little bit more alive than that, though. I want them to really sizzle. So we'll just let them sit there. Temperature's up. You gotta be careful with butter; you don't burn it, of course. How thin that bacon is. And if it were me, I'd probably put the whole package on it. But seeing how I have to share with my family, I'm only going to put a half a package on. Not really, but I would load this sucker up with bacon if it were me. Or if I didn't have to share with anybody. So you got your bacon, lettuce, and tomato. And wood sorrel. Kind of spread that around a little bit. If you like green apples, put a lot of this stuff on there because it kind of gets lost in some of the other flavors. So now we've got that. Got a nice sandwich made there. And a nice little side of cattails. Alright, let's give it a try here. That's pretty good stuff. It's a little bit different. I did need to take a little couple of the, I wanted to use as much of the cattails as I could. I didn't want to waste it, so I didn't peel quite as much as I should have. You can see I had to spill a little bit out, but it's got a good crunchy texture. It's different. If you make this for someone, they will definitely tell it's not something that they're used to. But it tastes really good. Good stuff. Alright folks, well I'm all fat and happy. Just got done eating a BLT and some cattail fry up there. It was really good. If you're going to feed this to somebody who's not used to wild edibles, process it down a little bit more. In other words, take some of the outer peelings off just a little bit more than what I did. Like I said, I try to use every last little bit of a wild edible that I can, especially a cattail like that, because it's such a great plant. There was a couple pieces that were just a little bit chewy, but I still ate them. It wasn't a big deal for me. Somebody who's maybe a little creeped out by wild edibles or something, you might want to process it down a little bit more. My wife actually went back for seconds. It's pretty tough to not make something good when it's cooked in garlic and butter and onions. So anyway, the cattails were a pretty big hit. So the large Pouter from LT Wright Knives. This was the perfect knife to process this dinner tonight. It worked great. You saw how it sliced those tomatoes. Obviously it cut the cattails really good. It's a great kitchen knife, great size. And this AEB-L steel, I am familiar with it. I have used it quite a bit, so it's definitely gonna replace a couple of knives in my kitchen. So, all right guys, hope you liked the video. Take care.